So in last episode, Will Smith came in to face one batter against the Marlins, and he felt something in his shoulder, so he had to be removed from the game. Turns out it was a shoulder strain. He'll be placed on the 10-day IL. He'll be out for 1 to 2 weeks. He'll just miss the first game in today's episode. Also, a quick point about Will Smith. When I made the introduction to the team video for episode 1, I did not realize that Will Smith was on the final year of his contract as well, so he is a guy who could also get us a decent return at the trade deadline, as he is having a very good season, so I'm very glad he is not going to be injured through the trade deadline. And then to take his place on the roster, we have called up left-handed pitcher Fernando Abad. He is going to be wearing number 63 at the big league level. And before we actually move on to the games, we have another thing to go over, as we are now in the beginning of June, and that means it's time for the MLB entry draft. The 2019 MLB entry draft, we had the 10th overall pick, which means that we had a few blue chips available, guys who were already scouted, guys who are pretty much guaranteed to have a high potential, but for the majority, most of these guys are, like, the outfielders there were 2023 plus for MLB ETA, and I'm just not interested in waiting forever. And even some of these guys who had 2023 plus were already like 22 years old, so I'm not trying to wait till guys are like 26 years old, 27 years old, till they're ready to be in the major leagues. There were a couple good relievers who would have been ready pretty soon, but I didn't really want to draft a couple of relievers, or a reliever I should say, in the first round. So instead I went with a third baseman who I had fully scouted. He's 22 years old. He was graded as an 80 to 70 grade contact potential, a 70 to 60 grade power potential, a 70 to 75, or a 70 vision and a 75 discipline potential. He does need some work defensively, but he was our first round pick. In the second round, we took a guy named Ricky Ruff, 22-year-old third baseman. He's a switch hitter. Although he's also a third baseman, he is much better defensively, so we could also move one of them to a different position if we really needed to. He's projected to be a well above average bat as well, possible elite fielding potential. In the third round, we took a 19-year-old right-handed pitcher, and this is where my scouting really fell off. I didn't really scout too many late round guys, so I was pretty much drafting blind at this point in the draft. So in the third round, we took this Hinojosa guy, 19 years old, right-handed pitcher. In the fourth round, we took TJ Trejo, a 19-year-old right-handed pitcher. In the fifth round, we took Leandro Diaz, a 22-year-old outfielder. In the sixth round, we took Emilio Cruz, an 18-year-old left-handed pitcher. And just a reminder that the majority of these guys, if not all of them, will be getting closer looks during minor league baseball focused episodes or just prospect profiles, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about them now, so that's going to wrap things up here for this draft section of the episode as we move on to the games. And the Giants are traveling across the country to their former home of New York to take on the Mets here at Citi Field. Derek Rodriguez, the true ace of the staff this year based on performance, making a start here for the Giants. And then the Mets are sending out the right-hander Zach Wheeler, making his 13th start in a matchup of throwback unis. The Giants sending out their usual lineup against righties, and then the Mets, their lineup, filled with a lot of pop this year. They're currently 7th in the National League in home runs. Start things off in the top of the second with Gerardo Parra going to bloop one over the head of Rosario into left for a base knock. And then later in the inning with 2 outs, Brandon Crawford would come to the plate. He's hitting well this season. And with 2 outs, he's going to hit a ball over the head of the right fielder Conforto. That's going to bounce up over the fence as well, a ground rule double. And we have second and third with 2 outs for Steven Duggar. He's going to poke one the opposite way past the leaping glove of the third baseman. It's going to be an RBI single for Duggar, and the Giants have themselves a 1-0 lead. Bottom of the second now, as Jed Lowry going up the middle off D-Rod. That's going to be a base knock for the Mets. Later on, it would bring up Juan Lagares' 0-2 count, and he hits a ball which should have just been a line out to Duggar, and for whatever reason, he just flat out misses it, and it goes straight to the wall. Pilar is there to back it up, gets it into the cutoff man, and Crawford fires this one home, but he is way not in time, as that's going to be enough to drive in the run. It's a 1-1 game. We move on to the top of the third, where Joe Panik, in his home state of New York, is going to hit a home run into the right field seats. It is now a 2-1 Giants lead. Let's take another look at this one. Panik getting some good wood on that one, and it goes a long way as it gets into the upper deck here at Citi Field. So a 2-1 lead now. In the bottom of the third, Rodriguez on the hill still, obviously. Brandon Nimmo with a base knock up the middle. Now 2 outs in the inning. 0-1 count to Michael Conforto. And Rodriguez makes a mistake, and Conforto does not miss. Deep right center field. That one is out of here. Watch the apple go up. It's now a 3-2 Mets lead as we move on to later in the inning, as Jed Lowry is at the plate. 3-1 count, hits a rocket over to Brandon Belt, who makes the catch on the diving stop, and then his momentum carries him into the bag. Take a look at that in super slow motion. Very nice play by the sure-handed first baseman Brandon Belt. So 2 outs now in the bottom of the 6th, and Rodriguez is going to walk Juan Lagares, put him on base. Free pass. Next batter up is Jeff McNeil, who's pinch hitting, and he's going to get a free pass as well, as a cutter runs inside and plunks him. So then a 2-1 count to Ahmed Rosario, hits a ball into center field. Pilar gives it a dive, and it hits off his glove, manages to keep the ball in front of him, but a run will come in, and the Mets extend their lead to 4-2. And then Brandon Nimmo would pop up to the catcher Posey, as that would get the Giants out of the inning. 4-2 ball game now, top of the 7th. Justin Wilson, the lefty, coming on to face Buster Posey. And he's going to hit a ball into left center field, or I should say right field, and that is going to get past Conforto. Posey has himself a stand-up double to lead off the inning. Next batter up is Brandon Belt. He connects on one, some lefty-on-lefty crime. Usually not the greatest bat against left-handed pitching, but Brandon Belt gets it done there, a 2-run shot, and this game is tied up yet again. Move on to the bottom of the 7th now. After we take a look at this replay of the home run, Belt super zoomed in, another upper deck shot for the Giants in this one. Fernando Abad comes on to the bottom of the 7th. 2 outs, he would get out of it. Line out, Jed Lowry right at Brandon Belt makes the snag. Luis Avalon comes on for the Mets in the 8th. A reliever with an 8 ERA coming in a tie game. And Steven Duggar would start it off with a base knock straight up the middle. So he's on first base. That would bring up a pinch hitter in Evan Longoria, the $15 million pinch hitter this year, and he proceeds to get the job done yet again. Hits it into right center field. Duggar has speed, so he's able to go first to third. So we have runners on the corners, nobody out for Joe Panic, as he proceeds to hit a ball into right center field, but Lagares gets this one. But Duggar is able to tag up from third base, and the Giants have a lead again, 5-4. That brings up Buster Posey, hits a ball into center field. That would die out right at Lagares, puts that one away easily. After that, it's Belt with 2 outs, swings at the first pitch stupidly, and pops it right up to the pitcher. So it's only a 5-4 lead. Nick Vincent comes on to the bottom of the 8th, and he would have himself an easy inning. A 1-2-3 inning, as he would top it off by getting pinch hitter Denny Hechavarria to ground out over to Joe Panic at second base. Now on to the bottom of the 9th, Mark Melancon comes on with Will Smith being out, and he would work a 1-2-3 inning, topped off by Wilson Ramos grounding right back to him. And that would be the save, as the Giants come away with the victory here in New York over the Mets by a score of 5-4. Joe Panic gets player of the game honors. He was 3 for 4 on the day with a home run and 2 runs driven in. Brandon Belt 2 for 5, a 2-run shot. Gerardo Parra was 3 for 5 on the day. He's been hitting very well so far in the season for the Giants, which is what you like to see, because the Giants are looking to trade him at the trade deadline. Before we move on to the next game, it's worth noting that Christian Yelich will not be in this game for the Brewers, as he has a torn Achilles tendon, so he is out for a long time for Milwaukee. And the Giants are back home in San Francisco playing host to the Milwaukee Brewers, the NL Central leading Brewers. Drew Pomeranz making his 14th start of the year, on a bit of a hot streak recently. We'll see if he'll be able to continue that for the Giants. And then Corbin Burns, the right-hander, on the hill for the Brew Crew. And the Giants sending out their usual lineup against right-handed pitching, while the Brewers are sending out a lineup without Christian Yelich because of injury and without Travis Shaw because of an off day. So start things off, bottom half of the first inning. Joe Panic, second pitch he sees, sends that one into the bay. That's going to carry over the entire stadium. A splash hit for Joe Panic, of all people. And the Giants get off to a 1-0 home run. Gerardo Parra also gets a little splash onto Joe Panic there with the Gatorade Cup. Taking a look at that home run, it carries out of here. And then move on to the top of the second, where Mike Moustakas grounds out as Joe Panik makes a nice play in the field. Yasmani Grandal would then come up to the plate, who has been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball this year for Milwaukee, and he would go down swinging on the knuckle curve. Pomeranz gets him out reaching on that one. And we move on to the top of the third now. Ryan Braun ends up taking his base on balls. So he's on first base, then with one out, it would be the pitcher Corbin Burns trying to bunt, and the cutter runs way inside and plunks him. So it's first and second with one out for Hernan Perez, who grounds one over to Schimpf, and they turn it into an around-the-horn, inning-ending double play. Move on to the top of the fourth now. Ben Gamel at the plate. He's going to hit one down the left field line. Steven Duggar gives that one a chase, and he's going to get to it quickly, keeping the runner Perez to a double. Now with one out, it's going to bring up Aguilar, and he's going to hit a ball past Schimpf at third base. They're not going to test the arm of Duggar, so it's runners on the corners now with one out. Brings up Mike Moustakas, hits a ball to Panik yet again, and now it's a 4-6-3 inning-ending double play. Pomeranz gets out of the jam again. Top of the fifth, Yasmani Grandal hits one into right center field. This should be an easy triples alley, at least double, but it's Yasmani Grandal and Kevin Pillar cutting it off, so it's somehow only a single. And then Ryan Braun would go down looking on the fastball belt high. He's going to want that one back. And then after that, it would be Hernan Perez, or Brett Lawrie, I should say, grounding into an inning-ending double play, 6-4-3. Bottom of the sixth now, Brandon Belt at the plate. He's going to hit one against the shift in the left center. They had him shifted towards right field, and it's going to be a triple for Brandon Belt as he hustles all the way over there and avoids the tag on the slide. Then with two outs, Ryan Schimpf takes a ball to the back of his foot, so he'll take his base. Runners on the corners for Gerardo Parra, who makes the pitcher punish, and he knocks one off of the right field wall. That's going to score both runs. Schimpf all the way from first base, and Parra has himself a triple, the second triple of the inning for the Giants. And it's now a 3-0 lead for the Giants. Alex Claudio would then come on to replace Corbin Burns. And look at this pitch. 69 miles an hour. Kevin Pillar has no chance. And then with an 0-2 count, he's going to line one right at the second baseman, Moustakas. The run would not come in, and it's a 3-0 lead still for the Giants. Sam Dyson comes on at the top of the seventh for San Francisco, and he's facing Jesus Aguilar, falls behind in the count, and he's going to give up a home run into those right field seats. Aguilar with a solo shot, and the Brewers are finally on the board. It's a 3-1 ball game. Sam Dyson not happy with that one, now pitching with barely any confidence, and he somehow manages to strike out Moustakas. After that, it brings up Yasmani Grandal. He goes down on the down-and-away changeup, and Dyson, right back in this inning, rebounding nicely, strikes out Braun, gives up the home run, strikes at the next three batters, still a 3-1 lead. Evan Longoria then comes in to pinch hit for Dyson in the bottom half of the frame, and Longoria keeps doing what he's doing. Just being the most valuable, expensive pinch hitter option in the big leagues, continues to hit home runs and get hits. His 8th home run of the season, and the Giants extend their lead to 4-1. Now that brings up Joe Panik, who draws himself a walk from Alex Claudio. And now Buster Posey to the dish, going to hit a ball into left center field. That's going to hit up off the wall, and Panik is going to score all the way from first base, an RBI double for Buster Posey. It's now a 5-1 lead for the Giants. Will Smith comes on in the top of the ninth as the lead is still 5-1. 2 outs, strikes out Moustakas, does his little shimmy, as that's going to be the ball game. The San Francisco Giants win this one 5-1 here at home over the Milwaukee Brewers. A little bit of a down day for them as they are leading the NL Central and did not perform very well against the middling Giants ball club. But Drew Pomeranz had a very solid day on the mound, continues his streak of pitching quite well. He only gave up 3 hits in 6 innings, struck out 3, and gave up no earned runs. Corbin Burns, on the other hand, did get a lot of strikeouts, struck out 7 and 5 2/3, but he gave up 6 hits and 3 runs, so that was the difference maker. Joe Panik and Evan Longoria both had solo shots for the Giants. Buster Posey was 3 for 4 with an RBI double, and then Gerardo Parra 2 for 4 with a 2 RBI, and then also an 2 RBI triple, continuing to up that trade value as he is still raking for this team. So with that being said, that is going to wrap things up here for this edition of the San Francisco Giants franchise. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I am saying, Listen to all the new Kevin Abstract songs.